We now understand what a string is in JavaScript, and we also know how to store them into containers called variables. But what if we wanted to combine these two things by adding a variable into a string? This is completely possible using JavaScript, and there is different ways to do this. Let's go over to our files, which is number 5, mixing strings with variables. And then open this up inside of the browser. Inside of this index page, we have our level 1 heading up at the top with the ID of title. We then have 2 constants below. We have this name and also a likes constant too. Finally, we select our title and update the inner text. So what if we wanted to update this title and also mix in these two variables? So the way to do this, we may want the string of text to say my name is. Then after this, let's say we wanted to also insert this name variable. If we were to save this and refresh, we see my name is name. So we see the text of name rather than the inner contents of this variable. The reason this happens because since all of this is inside of the quotations, it's all considered to be part of the same string of text and not read as a variable. So we need to break out of this string and add or append the variable name to this string. And we do this just like we looked at in an earlier video with the plus symbol. What we need to do is to remove the variable name from the end, use the plus symbol, and then outside of the string we can add this variable name. We can also leave a space at the end of the string, so we have a space between this string and also the variable. Then over to the browser and refresh, we can see our name has now been updated with the value of the variable. And we can also add the second variable onto this string too, just like we did here. We then use the plus symbol, open up the string, add a space, and we'll say and I like, add another space at the very end, and then the plus symbol to add the variable of likes. Let's check this out. My name is Chris and I like pizza. So that's all working perfectly fine. We've got our variables mixed into a string. And there is also another way to do this too, which was introduced in ES 2015. And this is to use the template strings. Template strings are just like what we used in a previous video when we combined the text over multiple lines. What we need to do is to replace these quotations with the backticks. Let's remove all of these quotations. And we can also remove the plus symbols, leaving only the text inside. And then what we need to do is to place all of this inside of the backticks. The second step is to mark which part of this string is a variable. So we know from earlier, if we just save this and refresh, we don't see the contents of these two variables. But what we need to do is to place in front of this a dollar symbol and then the variable name inside of the curly braces. The same for likes, dollar symbol, and wrap this inside of the curly braces. And now this should be read as the contents of our two variables. These template strings in between the quotes can also be stored into their own variable too. So if we were to cut this out of place, create a new variable, let's say string is equal to this value we've just cut out, we could then pass in the variable name of string. And this all works just as before, but this time all combined into a single string variable.